Okay, hello. All right, so let me make sure you can share my screen. Okay. Okay, so evolution is the diversity of microbial life. Okay, so um, the origin of life. Okay, it's difficult to pinpoint when life on Earth began, roughly 4 billion. So there's some evidence it's 3.8. There's some evidence that's about 4.2, but around 4 billion. Okay, consider the origin of the Earth is about 4.4 billion. So that's really really quick. Okay. Um, okay. So Earth formed about 4.6 billion years ago. Comets, meteorites, asteroids bombarded Earth's surface for millions of years, and there's evidence of this bombardment in craters everywhere. But during this time, there was too much pressure and high temperatures for life to form. Okay. Okay. The Earth early atmosphere includes methane, ammonia, water, hydrogen, similar to the atmospheres of the outer planets, like Jupiter, Saturn, etc. And if you take those, okay, and um, you do a really important experiment. This experiment is called the Miller-Urey experiment, or simply the Miller experiment here. Okay, you take a flask, you heat it up with boiling water, you add the gases, you add electricity for sparks to generate electricity, and then you collect samples, and you will see that there's organic substances forming. Okay. Okay. Out of that, you can form simple organic acid, organic molecules, nucleic acids, proteins, polysaccharides, all forming in the soup. And and then add clay and iron pyrite might help create the right conditions for synthesis and the first reaction in the RNA. Okay. Okay. So we understand that the first replicating molecule is not DNA, it's actually RNA. Okay, the more stable the molecule, the more it can replicate. Okay, so natural selection network. Okay, with phospholipid bilayer, they're even more able to replicate, and that's the first cell. Okay, before life evolved, the Earth atmosphere had very, very, very little amount of oxygen. Okay, conditions were strictly anaerobic. Okay, the first cells in the hydrogen ion likely used organic molecules as a source of both carbon and energy, just like we do, but it was just in the atmosphere. Okay. Eventually, oxygen came from photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis releases CO2, or sorry, O2 as a waste product, and eventually the O2 built up. Okay, so CO2 levels plunge as since it was used as a reactant. O2 levels begin to accumulate as a product of photosynthesis, and this eventually led to um, the condition of the atmosphere being what it is. Okay. Uh, so the first organisms are prokaryotes. So prokaryotes is a single cell organism like bacteria or archaea. You already know this. Okay. Prokaryotes have been living on Earth for billions of years. Okay. Okay. Um, this uh, bacteria and archaea are actually different. We used to consider them all as one big group, all bacteria, but archaea are actually very different things of DNA. Okay. Okay. So bacteria and archaea have similar internal structures. Okay. We already went over this. We already went over the nucleoid region, ribosomes, and now we're introducing a new concept, plasmids. Okay. Plasmids are little loops of DNA that are apart from the chromosome. Okay, cell wall, cell membrane, you already know. Pili, okay, you already know. Okay, flagella, you already know. Okay, all right. Now, the shape. Okay, you definitely do have to know the different shapes of bacteria. The three most common shapes are coccus, bacillus, and spirillum. Um, So fungus are round spherical cells. Okay. Bacillus is rod shaped, and spirilla are like spiral heaps, like these little worm thing shaped things. Um, okay. Okay, endospores. Some bacteria form thick wall endospores that can survive harsh conditions like Clostridium botulinum. Um, form endospores. So this is an endospore. The endospore allows that bacteria to survive conditions that it would otherwise not survive. So the hardest thing to kill when we take microbiology, if you guys ever take microbiology, the hardest thing that to kill is actually endospores. Okay. Okay. Scientists classify prokaryotes. Those are based on metabolism. So autotrophs, heterotrophs, phototrophs, chemotrophs, aerobes, and anaerobes. You have to make sure you understand what all these terms actually mean. Okay, aerobic prokaryotes require oxygen. Okay, anaerobic eukaryotes do not require oxygen. In fact, if they get in contact with too much oxygen, then you can actually kill them. Okay. Okay. Uh, so let's go over definitions. Autotroph is an organism that acquires carbon from inorganic sources. Auto, self, okay, troph, eating. Heterotroph, acquire carbon by consuming other things. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be organism, but other sources of carbon. Okay, phototroph. So bacteria, so all living organisms need two things. They need a source of energy and they need a source of CO2. Okay, so phototrophs, photo, okay, light, so energy derived from light. Chemo, energy derived from chemicals. Okay. We'll skip archaea. You know, archaea was really not that important to us. Um, okay. Archaea bacteria are essential to life. They contribute just about everything. They contribute gases to the atmosphere, they fix nitrogen, etc. Okay. Um, some bacteria are more famous because they cause disease, but most bacteria couldn't care less about you. Okay. Um, we actually use bacteria to make things. Okay. Uh, drugs, for example. Okay. I don't know what that is. Oh, I think it's making bread. And then we also use microbes to break down organic matter. It's a waste treatment plant. So they're slow. there's a bunch of poop and crap in here, and what they're doing is putting bacteria in and mixing the water continuously, so the bacteria encounters the fecal matter and break it down. Okay. All right. Eukaryotic cells arose about 1.5 billion years ago. Okay. One of the things that I want to make sure you understand is this concept of endosymbiosis. Okay. Okay. So, what happens in our cells? You guys know mitochondria produces energy and stuff like that. But basically, what happens? The eukaryotic cell became bigger than the prokaryote, and they took over. They kind of kidnapped the mitochondria and the chloroplasts in order to use them, okay, for energy, okay. And this is still going on today. We're still algae taking up some chloroplasts and other stuff. So there's not only primary endosymbiosis, but there's secondary endosymbiosis as well. Okay. Okay. Multicellularly evolved from unicellular organisms. Okay. So what happens is, so like unicellular organisms live by themselves, but sometimes they find it better to aggregate groups for survival purposes. And what will eventually happen is like some of them will live together for so long that they forgot what it's like to live by themselves. And then what will happen is they will, if you have a lot of cells, and some cells become really good at doing A, some cells become really good at doing B. And eventually they'll become so specialized that they can't live apart from each other. And that becomes a multicellular organism. Okay. Okay. Protists are the simplest eukaryotes. We're not going to talk about the three groups of protists because really that's not really important for this class. Okay. The most important thing from here is that are green algae. Green algae are where plants actually come from. Okay. There's slime molds. Okay. We'll cover protozoa a little bit. Protozoa is important because protozoa is what led to our primitive protozoa are what led to animals. Okay. Okay. So these guys. Okay. Fungi are essential decomposers. So fungi are more closely related to animals and plants. Although outwardly they might look like plants, they share more metabolic features with animals. So they don't use photosynthesis for one, right? They're actually more related to animals than they are to plants. They break down a lot of dead material, etc. Okay. You have to note features of this. Okay. Okay. Fungi are made of hyphae and fruiting bodies. So these are the hyphae and the fruiting bodies of the mushroom. So the mushroom really is the fruiting body. So the fruiting body, the mushroom that you're eating for on your pizza, is basically a reproductive structure. Okay. Fungal reproduction. Okay. So fungi secrete enzymes that break down dead food, dead plants and animals, and recycle them for our ecosystem. So you see the mold here The mold grows on everything. Okay. We use fungi for different foods. We use fungi for also antibiotics. Okay. All right. Some fungi are pathogenic. Okay, cool. You don't have to know more about endophytes. Uh, okay, lesions sorry, um, are dual organisms. These guys are actually combination of both fungi and green algae. Okay, right. Okay, so the fungi absorb the materials and water, and they provide protection. So you see on the outside, the fungi is on the outside providing protection, and then the green algae is on the inside providing sugar by photosynthesis. Okay. All right. So I know I cut down the chapter into like bare minimum because I didn't want to go into detail about a lot of different things because I don't think it's right for this class. Okay. All right. I will see you guys in class.